Hi there. The spiritual attribute that I'm going to talk about now is the one that's called righteousness. I'm sure that's a word that you've heard quite a bit, often in relation to religion. But where as a spiritual attribute, it's not a religious term, it's a spiritual term, where you can still take some of the meaning from this religious context, because religion does have spirituality within it. But it's what righteousness is that we need to look at. Quite often, people decide something is righteous if it aligns with their particular belief system. Now, that particular brand, for want of a better word, of righteousness may actually be universal. It depends on the belief system. But somebody else's idea of what is righteous may actually be in conflict with another person's belief of what is righteous. So what we're dealing with here becomes self-righteousness. And we as spiritual people have to be careful about becoming self-righteous. We're all on our journeys and we have our truths. And as you know, our truth can grow and change and evolve as we grow and change and evolve and are able to have, a broader understanding of things, where our comprehension increases to where we can comprehend concepts that we could not comprehend earlier in our journey, and our truth grows and expands and changes. And righteousness is often linked to truth. So as a spiritual attribute, we have to unlink it a little bit, mainly in our minds. Truth at its highest form in the universe is truth beyond change. And righteousness as a spiritual attribute is linked to that truth. And we as seekers of truth are on a path to being able to experience that ultimate truth. But while we're here, muddling along as we are, most of us probably aren't ready for that yet. So when it comes to righteousness, sometimes it's best to not make the decision ourselves what is righteous and what is not, but to simply align ourselves with righteousness. In other words, we consciously say, I want to do what is right. I often talk of right action, that everything we should do as spiritual people should be aligned to right action. And righteousness is that right action. And I'm not saying we should throw away our versions of righteousness, because they do go hand in hand with our versions of truth. And we do need to have them loosely, I say loosely linked, not rigidly linked, but loosely linked. It's a little bit difficult here I'm finding with language. I'm sensing and feeling things here, and I'm trying to convey it to you with language, and I feel as though I'm not hitting the mark. So I'm thinking that this topic of righteousness is another one that probably needs to be meditated upon or contemplated on, depending whether you contemplate or meditate or both. Certainly you can bring checks and balances in. Is my idea of what is righteous, is it harmful to anyone? Is it purely based on my belief of what is right and wrong? And is my belief of what is right and wrong universal? Or is it more cultural, more personal? So is something that I believe is not righteous, who does it harm? Does it really harm anyone? These are not easy questions to answer. Righteousness it's a big one. When you look through history and even to what is going on today, a lot of harm has been caused by self-righteous people who thought or were fully convinced that they were righteous. So we have to be careful. We've covered spiritual zeal in these discourses. And spiritual zeal and righteousness are linked as well. And just as we have to be very careful with how we direct our spiritual zeal, we have to have those same checks and balances on how we wield righteousness. The safest thing to do is to live your life in a righteous manner according to your truth and not inflict it on another. You can present it, but if someone rejects it, then respect their choice, their free will choice. Obviously, there are certain things that I think are universally known by most human beings to be wrong. And the best example of that would be committing murder. Many centuries ago, people didn't worry too much. It was loosely against the law, but people who thought they were righteous people did it. I'm into history, so I'm speaking from my observations, from what I have read of history down the ages. If you're not really familiar with history and that aspect of history, then perhaps you could do a little research for yourself rather than just believing me. Okay? I'm happy for you to believe me, but that's one of the prime rules on the spiritual path, is you question. You question everything. because of the fact that not everybody's truth is sitting at the same place as you're going along. So question everything that I'm giving here. I'm delivering things to the best of my ability. I'm being guided to do it. And I'm delivering it the best way I can. But I'm okay if you challenge me, because I'm still growing and learning too. So righteousness linked to right action. Again, righteousness is a word of power. It has power attached to it. So if you're not sure, if you're not absolutely sure that something you want to do is righteous, or if something going on in the world is righteous and you are in a position to either go along with it or to resist it, you can just align yourself with righteousness. You can invoke righteousness into the situation and just, say, well, I personally am not sure, but at every level of my being, I will be righteous. I will follow the righteous path. Show me, guide me, help me. Because we're not all expected to be able to work it all out all the time. Trying to work it out, not just righteousness up here, anything that we're coming to understand on our spiritual path, and probably in life in general. We can't be expected to be able to work it out all at once. Some people are quicker than others. We can only be us though, and nobody gets it right instantly all the time. So we ask for help. And we make sure that whoever we're asking for help for is an expert, don't we? We do that in everyday life. Well, when it comes to the spiritual stuff, we ask the experts. Now, there are some experts in human bodies alive and kicking. But the true experts are the masters who have lived all of their lives here and no longer need to incarnate. They've mastered the human existence. So if you can get the guidance from them directly, that's the best way. But that's not always possible too. But that's something as a spiritual person that you're working on your spiritual journey. So in order to be aligned to righteousness, you need to make sure that that your guides are aligned to righteousness, whether they be in physical body or whether they be those who no longer need to incarnate. And you use your own will to do that. You just reinforce within yourself that you are aligned to righteousness, that the guidance that you seek must align with righteousness. And then when you get that guidance, you can still put a few checks and balances in place. You would have a fairly well-established code of ethics by now. Does it match your code of ethics? Or is this going against that? It's not easy, is it? Being on this path, this spiritual path. It's a struggle to know. Am I doing the right thing? And that's what the journey's about. Sometimes you will do the wrong thing. And that's where you need to own up to it when you realise it. Don't hide from it. Make amends if you can, or if it's something that needs to have amends made. Because we're not perfect. We do fall, we stumble. We veer off to the side sometimes. But if we realise we've gone a bit astray, we just bring ourselves back to the centre again and start moving forward. We learn from mistakes. They teach us. We grow from mistakes. They teach us. There's a lot to think about with the spiritual attribute of righteousness. And I hope that you do give it a lot of thought and expand on the few things that I've managed to say. And I felt I have struggled with this one. Because there is so much about it that I cannot find the words to use, to express. And that happens with the spiritual attributes at times too. We get to a stage with each of them that it becomes very personal and something that each and every one of us have to experience in our own unique way. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. And please, take more time to discover righteousness for yourself. Thank you.